It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. I'm president of Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. You can find a link to my work at emailrevealer.com. Adoption investigations, locates, background checks, asset searches. Also to think your spouse is cheating on you, send us their email address. We trace back to online dating websites, catch them cheating online. Show's brought to you by GetTheTea.com, Life Change Tea. Okay, I've been talking about this and talking about it. It's about 40 days now I've been on the tea. No, 8 weeks. Because we're right at the end of the 8 weeks. I've been on this tea. No. I think it's 10 weeks. I'm sorry. It's 10 weeks I've been on this tea. Lost at least 25 pounds. I swam 100 laps, okay, on Friday. They closed down the pool for 2 weeks. I won't be swimming every day, but I'm riding my bike every day. I'm feeling great, losing weight. Great for your complexion, your digestion. GetTheTea.com, Life Change Tea. Check it out. You can't go wrong. Okay, really excited about my guest today. We have John Barbour from John Barbour's World. In fact, we play a show on Saturday nights. We play it on Awake and People's Internet Radio and PSN Radio. And I think IPM Nation might pick it up too as well. Who else? Chuck Ocelli. Ocelli.com is playing the show now as well on Saturday nights. On all my stations, on my Spreakers, on iTunes, iHearts. John Barbour's World. You might know this guy from Real People, the first reality TV show, guys. A local Vegas hero. John Barbour, are you there?
You're a terrific investigator, Ed. You managed to find me.
Yeah, I've been begging you to come on the show for a long time, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, listen, it's my honor, and thank you. I'm glad you're here in town. And I guess you've also gotten caught up in, it's that time of the year for me when I get involved with America's Bread and Circuses to get distracted from the news. And that means that I'm watching the National Hockey League playoffs. And, of course, this town has gone nuts over the Golden Knights. It's probably one of the greatest sports stories in 50 years. And it just occurs to me, Ed, sadly in America, there are only two professions left where the people demand excellence, and that's athletes and airline pilots. So anyway, I'm delighted to be with you, and we can talk about whatever you wish to talk about.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, tell the audience, who is John Barbour?
Oh, God. Well, listen, I've done absolutely everything. I was born in the charity ward of the Salvation Army Hospital in Toronto, Canada. For the first sound I heard was a tambourine. And I came from a severely dysfunctional family long before it was popular. And I ran away to the United States when I was 15 or 16. And I was deported when I was around 17. So it's, as a matter of fact, I just finished, after 5 years of badgering from a bunch of fans, I finished writing my autobiography, which is now with a young editor at Skyhorse who publishes the Jesse Ventura stuff, and they're very, very successful at what they do. And the book, I must say, quite objectively, I was a critic for 10 years, 5 years at KNBC in Los Angeles on the news with Tom Snyder, and 10 years at Los Angeles Magazine. So I don't say this lightly. And it is by far the best book ever written about anybody in show business, with the best title. And the title is Your Mother's Not a Virgin. Now, before that, the very best book ever about anybody in show business was the autobiography of Ben Hecht. It's called The Child of the Century, which is still a magnificent, magnificent read. Do you know who Ben Hecht was?
No, I don't know.
Well, you should know, because you would love reading his book. He was born in Racine, Wisconsin, a reluctant Jew. He didn't know he was Jewish until the Second World War, and he ran away to get into the circus and ended up a newspaper reporter in Chicago, became their most famous columnist. Then he went to New York, where he became their most famous columnist. He wrote Front Page with Charles MacArthur. Then he ended up in Hollywood as Hollywood's highest paid screenwriter. He invented the gangster movie with Scarface. He wrote Gone with the Wind.
Oh, get out of here.
For Selznick in 12 days and never read Margaret Mitchell's book. You know, you may recall, if you know anything about Gone with the Wind, Selznick shut it down because a couple of reasons. One was Clark Gable wanted the original director fired because when Clark was starting as an actor, he evidently had a dalliance with the original director and didn't want him around. These are little-known stories, but in any event, they had to rewrite the script, and David Selznick called his friend Ben and had him come in and was shocked when Ben said he never read Margaret Mitchell's book. And Ben Hecht said, "Do you have a synopsis?" And Darrell said, "Yes, of course I do. We have readers. We have a synopsis." Hecht read the synopsis and wrote the screenplay in 12 days. Anyway, beyond that, he became the first propagandist for the state of Israel. And that chapter alone at the end of the book is worth the entire book. So I would highly recommend it to anybody who likes reading. Unfortunately, it costs a fortune to get it on eBay or the internet, but it's called A Child of the Century. But my book, I am happy to say, is by far the best. It starts out like Charles Dickens and Angela's Ashes and ends up a lot like Neil Simon and Edward R. Murrow. So, and I don't say that lightly. I don't like to say that. But I've also said it about my film, The American Media and the Second Assassination of President John F. Kennedy, which was turned down by 20 of the world's leading film festivals. I even tried to get it in Moscow because I was hoping that Trump would do for me. I mean, what Putin would do for me, what he did for Trump. But they also turned it down because, you know, I don't think the Russians would be so thrilled or so pleased with letting the world know that Jim Garrison had solved the murder of John Kennedy. And this film clearly proves that. And the media was complicit, not only in the beginning, but later in protecting the known killers. And as Garrison said when he went on The Tonight Show with Carson, it was elements of the CIA who murdered our president. So I don't think that Putin would want to embarrass the new president, Donald Trump, by showing them the reality of the fact that America is ruled by a bunch of serial killers. They killed Martin Luther King, they killed Robert Kennedy Jr., and probably Malcolm X. Anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked into that. But anything you wish to talk about, Ed, I'd be happy to talk about.
No, this is all great stuff. This is all great stuff.
But you know what? You mentioned before we went on the air, because I said to you, there is no politician in America I have any respect for. If you go to my site, YouTube.com/JohnBarbersWorld.com, you'll see my open letter to Bernie Sanders. I had predicted when he announced that he was running that he would turn into the Democrats' Ron Paul. Ron Paul was the only person I ever put a bumper sticker on my car for because he kept saying, this is the fellow that Jefferson would vote for. He was the only one who talked about peace. He was the only one who talked about the Federal Reserve should be audited. It should be nationalized. It's a private bank. Had he run as a third-party candidate, he would have at least thrown it into the House of Representatives, and we would have had a choice. Bernie Sanders had 12 million followers, younger than those of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump combined. He would have won had he run as a third-party candidate. When he backed out, I got on my phone and ad-libbed an open letter to Bernie Sanders. It only is a couple of minutes long, and it has thousands and thousands of hits. The open one that I did to Harry Reid had 80,000 hits, okay? So I have no politician I respect except that young lady who's the veteran in Hawaii. You mentioned that you were doing a telethon for a lady here in Las Vegas who's running for office. I was on my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
A bit of a present I had, Ed, was I got a call from Jesse Ventura, who had asked for 4 copies of my film, to come on and do an interview about the film for his show, The World According to Jesse, on Russian TV. It was only 15 minutes long, but it was a little bit of a birthday present. And he asked me how old I was, and I told him, if John Kennedy were still alive, he'd be 101. Well, I'd be 16 years younger than the ex-president, and that I was so old, I can remember when the Dead Sea was just sick. But in any event, we spent the time talking about the film a little bit and Project Mockingbird, which still exists in America. And he asked me, he said, John, we all know the media lies. We all know that the CIA is involved. And let me tell you something. And, people are talking about the fact that Trump did not release all the CIA files regarding JFK, which were supposed to be released last Friday. You know that there are no documents left by intelligence that say this is how we did it. Okay, but it doesn't matter because the 2 most important documents about the CIA either being involved or seriously disrupting a criminal investigation, therefore being guilty of obstruction of justice, are already in the film thanks to Oliver Stone's movie, because his movie got the Assassinations Act passed. And the first document they released by accident is in the film. The CIA in 1967, when Jim Garrison arrested Clay Shaw and announced he'd solved the case, which indeed he did solve, the CIA said they had to supply legal help to Clay Shaw. Otherwise, Jim Garrison would get an investigation for conspiracy in the murder of John Kennedy. The second document that they released was how they developed this conspiracy theory attack on people like Mark Lane. Mark Lane wrote Rush to Judgment, which totally legally dismantles the Warren Report. Now, the CIA and the media claimed that he was out to make money. They never published the book in America. He had to go to England, where he got $1,500 to publish that book. It was such a hit in England, it became a monster seller in America for 2 years. So that could not be suppressed. Okay, so in any event, I started getting around to the fact that I have no respect for any of these politicians. And Jesse said to me, how do we solve it? You may remember this, and this is the easiest thing in the world. The film not only shows you how to solve it. First of all, Garrison didn't lose the case. He lost the conspiracy case, but he won the perjury conviction, and that's what he was after, and the federal government stepped in and stopped the prosecution. But in any event, do you remember when the federal government dismantled AT&T?
Yes, I do.
Okay. They ruled that it was a monopoly, so it had to be dismantled. Now, Ed, we have 20 telephone companies, all successful, including AT&T. Do you remember when the Justice Department and the Supreme Court ruled that the movie studios were monopolies because they owned theaters? Do you remember that?
No, actually, I don't remember that. I'm 55 years old. That must have been before.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, yes. Then you wouldn't remember.
Yeah.
You would have been just a child. But anyway, that was a ruling in the 50s because Paramount and Universal and Warner's and Fox made movies and put them in the theaters that they owned. The government stepped in and said, you got to sell the theaters. It's a monopoly. I'm going to state emphatically that the worst president in the history of the United States was Bill Clinton. He destroyed it with his pen. First of all, he repealed Glass-Steagall, which FDR put in place to protect Americans from the predators on Wall Street. This reversal of Glass-Steagall resulted in 2008's recession, which cost me my $800,000 home and cost the homes of millions with no prosecutions. That's the first horrible thing. The next thing is he signed NAFTA, sending all our jobs overseas. And the reason for that was if American youngsters couldn't find jobs, they'd have to join the military, where now they get a $20,000 bonus if they sign, because they need hitmen to protect these corporations that illegally invade all of these countries around the world. But then worse than that, he passed the Communications Act in 1993. It turned over all of our media to 6 corporations. When John Kennedy was murdered, a corporation or an individual could only own 5 television or radio stations or newspapers in the country. There were 1,500 individual owners. Now there are only 6. And if your friend here in Vegas is running for office, all she has to campaign on is she promised to reverse the Communications Act, dismantle these 6 monopolies, and they call it the public airwaves. It's corporate airwaves. And they are propagandists for this empire and the continuing fake wars that we continually fight. Now, I don't know if you want to get into that in this conversation, but I will talk about anything you wish to talk about, because I have had almost every job imaginable in the world for 2 reasons. First of all, I needed to get these jobs. I was quite good at them, and I was frequently fired from them. So that's why I ended up doing so many things.
Okay, I want to back up a little bit. Mark Lane. Now, were you friends with Mark Lane?
Yes, as a matter of fact, in both of my documentaries, the first one is called the Garrison Tapes, which I did in 1992, and Oliver said it was absolutely the perfect companion piece for his movie JFK. In spite of the fact that it got rave reviews from the LA Times, was sold out at a couple of theaters in San Francisco and LA. There was no theatrical distribution of that film. It was only released around the world where it was a monster hit. Now, you can go to my site, YouTube/John Barbour's World, and watch part 1 of the Garrison Tapes. Part 2 I just finished, and it has been called the absolute definitive film on JFK and the rise and purpose of fake news, which still plagues us today. And one of the major interviews I did was with Mark Lane. And in the second documentary, you can go to Amazon or Vimeo and get it for $2. There is no book in the world or no film in the world which will tell you how and why America got into this state today. And Mark Lane in this film says some of the most brilliant and moving things that you will ever hear, which were unbelievably truthful.
Now, Mark Lane, he was the one behind Executive Action, the movie, right?
Yes, it was. Mark was behind Executive Action. And I'll tell you another book that he wrote called Plausible Denial that nobody has heard about, and it's talked about a little bit in the American media in the second assassination of President John F. Kennedy. There was a rogue CIA agent who went to a magazine called Spotlight, and he wrote an article. The guy's name was Victor Marchetti, and he wrote an article in which he claimed that the bagman who carried him to the safe house in Dallas for the shooters was E. Howard Hunt. Well, E. Howard Hunt, who himself happened to be a novelist, E. Howard Hunt decided he was going to sue. So he sued Spotlight, and he won $600,000 as a judgment. Well, in appealing the case, Spotlight hired Mark Lane as the attorney. The trial was held in Florida, and the Florida jury reversed the $600,000 judgment and ruled that the federal government and the CIA and E. Howard Hunt were involved in a conspiracy to murder John Kennedy. That story never ran in any of the mainstream press. Do you remember a movie called Inherit the Wind?
No, I don't.
Oh, my God. Frederick March and Spencer Tracy. It is an absolutely brilliant movie based on a hit play. It's called Inherit the Wind, and it's about the Scopes Monkey trial. There was this teacher who was arrested, of course, for teaching Darwin. And in the southern state where he was a teacher, he was arrested. And Clarence Darrow was the attorney called in to defend him. The movie is based on that. Well, the plausible denial trial is exactly like the Scopes Monkey trial, except that Mark Lane won and Clarence Darrow lost. But I would suggest anybody, if they want to see a fantastic film, the kind of movie you will never see in America today. You see nothing meaningful in America today on the movie screen. They're all comic books.
Oh, that's so true.
Marvel comic books, for crying out loud.
Yeah, the same thing with modern music, too, as well. John, we have to take a commercial break, okay? And it'll be about 4 minutes long. And again, you won't be able to hear it, but I'll come back on in 4 minutes. When we come back, I want to ask you about Mark Lane and his connection to Jim Jones. And what do you know about that, okay?
Yes.
Because I found I've always looked at Mark Lane suspiciously because of his connection to Jim Jones. So I want to hear what you have to say. We'll be right back with more of John Barbour. His website is John Barbour's World, and it's spelled Barbour, and that's where you can find a link to his Amazon and YouTube and all that stuff like that. And his BBS, he has a radio show he does. When does your show air on BBS?
At 5 p.m. every second Monday.
Or else you can catch it over at the Awake and on all my stations. We'll be right back with more of John Barbour.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
Subhash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you know you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find the link to Subhash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also awakeradio.us.
People are waking up. They're standing up to those pushing pesticides and GMOs as safe alternatives for a starving world. What a bunch of crap. I tell you, I'd rather eat dirt. So I drink Life Change Tea. It's an herbal drink, cleansing my body of toxic sludge and nasty chemicals, and of course, ridding the intruders that are hidden in my so-called food. And by the way, Life Change Tea is non-GMO and organic. No fillers, no yuck. Just a great defense against you-know-what. May the supplement force awaken you. Don't fall to the dark side. Sorry. I went to the movies last night. Anyway, enough said. How do you get that herbal drink and change your life? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. You will awaken. You will get stronger, and you might even lose a bit of weight. So awaken to Life Change Tea and the many one-of-a-kind supplements at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. May the supplement force be with you.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with John Barbour from John Barbour's World. He's done some excellent films on the JFK assassination. So, John, what do you make of this Mark Lane and Jim Jones?
You know, that's a wonderful question. And I have to say, you should always be careful of the heroes you admire and those that you meet. The only three people who were heroes to me that never disappointed me when I met them were Jim Garrison, Frank Sinatra, and Neil Simon. When I interviewed Jim Garrison September 5th, 1980 in New Orleans, when he had to get up and go to check a phone call or something like that, the person who sat in for him to talk to me was Mark. And Mark at one point wanted to talk to me about, what the folks were saying to him about Jim Jones. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Mr. Garrison came back and Mark had to leave. And I never had a chance to hear it from him. Now, I've read a lot of stuff about it, but until I could hear it from him himself, I didn't want to say anything. Now, the reason I got disappointed at one point in Mark is because I optioned his book for $5,000 to turn into a play, to be the political Inherit the Wind, and we started writing the play. And we only had a handshake agreement. And the agreement was that I would be the director and he could be the executive producer. The play started to look so good. He went to a blacklisted writer named Jules Dassin, who was a great writer, did one of the greatest movies ever made, the best religious movie ever made, called He Who Must Die. It's based on a Kazantzakis novel called Christ Re-Crucified. Absolutely outstanding movie. And if I could hire a director, I'd hire Jules Dassin. But I was the one to be able to direct our own play. And Mark and I broke up, and he never refunded my $5,000, and he never spoke to me again, and even though I invited him on my show. Now, as for Sinatra, I saw him when I was 16 years of age. I came to the United States to be a professional gambler. And there is the picture, the cover picture of me is a black and white picture in a gorgeous blue suit and a Stetson in front of the old Flamingo Hotel when I was 16. And I had to stop in Lake Tahoe because of a train wreck or something. And I was at the Cal Neva Lodge, and I met the crap table, 16. But I didn't look 16 in those days. They didn't really care. And all of a sudden, everybody stops and starts looking. And I thought they were looking at me, standing at the end of the table with my back to the entrance. But everything got quiet. And I stopped and turned around. And guess who I saw? I saw Frank Sinatra walking in with his overcoat draped over his shoulders like a Superman cape. He was arm in arm with Sam Giancana. And I recognized Giancana because there'd been a huge story about him in the newspaper. And just 2 weeks earlier, I had seen Sinatra in a great color movie where he sings Old Man River in a white tuxedo on top of a white pedestal. And I couldn't believe it. Now get this, 30 years later, accidentally, serendipity, all these amazing things that happened to me by accident in my life. And I might tell you, Ed, I've had enormously wonderful things all happen to me by accident. And all the good things that happened to me were by accident, and all the bad things were the things that I planned well. But accidentally, I am one of the writers and the performers on the revival of Laughing, which introduces Robin Williams. And one of the guests is Sinatra. And it turns out what happened is that Sinatra came on stage, and he'd come on stage with 2 or 3 people. Now, there's no audience. It was never an audience. It was all canned laughter. And I sat at the very back of the empty studio to watch Sinatra, and George Slaughter, who was the producer at the time, handed him some pieces of paper with jokes. And Sinatra is very, very tough. You know, he'd look at this, he'd throw it on the ground. See, who wrote this crap? He'd throw it on the ground, throw it on the ground. Well, the actual creator of Laughing was a fellow named Digby Wolf, a brilliant drunken, okay? He's the actual co-creator, principal creator of Laughing, for which George Slaughter keeps getting credit. Anyway, Digby hands him another couple of slips of paper. Sinatra starts laughing. He says, who wrote this? And Digby points up at me, says, Johnny. And Sinatra looks up at me, and he crooks his finger, and he says, hey, kid, come here. And I was no kid. I was like 43 or 44 for crying out loud. So I rushed down. I'm terrified. And he said, you wrote this? I said, yes. He said, what else have you done? And I didn't want to say. But Digby Wolf said he just did the greatest album. It's called It's Tough to Be White. And he started laughing. And then Digby said the liner notes are by Dick Gregory. And that's the only reason that they released the album was because of Dick Gregory. So he said, send it over to me. And why didn't you mention that? And I said, well, because your friend is Sammy Davis and I'm nervous. The next day I got a personal letter from him. He wanted me to be his opening act, but I could not be because I started getting too busy. He's the only, and I became his private writer for 4 or 5 years. And the story about how we got along and a couple of the ideas I had for him that I was going to do a 5-hour video autobiography of Frank Sinatra. We were planning on doing it. I was going to go to his house in Palm Springs every weekend, sit him down and ask him questions. And he could keep all the tapes and everything. It would be the first visual autobiography of a performer. And I called it The Italian Roots because you remember the series Roots on ABC?
Sure.
Okay, well, he loved the idea. He absolutely loved the idea and said that I could have any percentage I wanted. I only wanted 10%. What an honor for me to be able to do this. But then I got sidetracked. I couldn't do it because I created Real People, which all of a sudden became a hit, so I didn't have time for Frank Sinatra. But he was the only one, along with Neil Simon or Jim Garrison, who ever kept their word to me.
Yeah, and at the beginning of your show now, you play an intro where Frank Sinatra's going on about you're the best comedy writer he's ever known.
Yeah, and you know who else said this publicly?
Who?
Well, she didn't say it was a comedy writer. Writer was Lucille Ball. She said, aside from the writers on her show, she said, I can't wait. John Barbour is my favorite writer. That's when I was doing the columns as a critic for LA Magazine for 10 years. And I had to stop doing that because I got Real People accidentally on the air. Do you know, I had it for a year. I had it for a number of months with ABC. The title was National Graffiti. And I wanted as my Byron Allen, Richard Pryor. At the time, Richard Pryor was in jail in Los Angeles because he had punched out an NBC executive because he edited out a skit that Richie had done on one of his NBC specials. And then he had neglected to pay his taxes. So the IRS was waiting to arrest him. But I knew Richie, and I was a massive fan. And when I was at ABC, I had to meet with a guy, oh, God, I hope I can remember his name, Lou Ehrlich. He was in charge of programming at the time for this kind of show. And I said to him, I would like my co-host to be Richard Pryor. He leaned over the table and he said, that is never getting on this network. So it was dead there, and accidentally I re-met George Slaughter because he had a four special deal at NBC, and this is after George and I had gotten along so well rewriting Laugh-In, and that's how it accidentally got on NBC. An absolute and total accident. And a year before I got it on, I had an interview with Daily Variety with Maury Gelman, and I said that I'm going to change the face of American television with what I call the entertainment of reality. Now, as for Neil Simon, do you remember the movie The Sunshine Boys?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, I must tell you, I hated the Sunshine Boys movie, and I love Neil Simon. I got on the air when I reviewed it. I said, the wealthiest playwright in the world is Neil Simon, and he would be wealthier even if Shakespeare got residuals. He is America's premier playwright, and especially of comedies. I said in New York, the Sunshine Boys were played by Jack Albertson and Sam Levine, two Jewish American actors. This movie is supposed to be about two Jewish American comics. It was so good on Broadway, it became a monster hit because every human being could identify with these two funny men. And I said, now this is all on the air. And I said, Neil comes to Hollywood. And what does he do? He wants to Presbyterianize these two Jews so they'll appeal to middle America. And he hires Walter Matthau, who is probably far one of the most interesting actor on the screen, except for this movie. And George Burns, whom I also love, who is totally miscast. And the only reason that you like these two characters is because the guy playing the nephew likes them. I said the next thing that Neil Simon writes has to be a letter firing himself as his own casting director. I get into my little office and the phone rings. And it's Neil. And he's laughing. He says, Jesus Christ, John, what did you just say? And I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Simon. I couldn't call him Neil. I didn't know him. I said, but I'm such an admirer of yours. I was such an admirer of the play, and you ruined my joy. I wanted to see them in your movie. So he said, who else would tell me that the emperor is wearing no clothes? So I said to him, Mr. Simon, the truth is, if the emperor wears no clothes, they should be arrested for indecent exposure. Well, he howled, and he said, would you do me a favor? And I said, I won't apologize. He said, no. He said, I'm being given the Heart of Israel Award at the Beverly Hilton tonight. Would you MC it for me? And we became friends. And he said to me afterwards, he said, John, anything you want from me, just call me. My second album was called I Met a Man I Didn't Like, which is a reverse of the Will Rogers thing. Right. And it was based on my film reviews. And I called Neil. And he said, can I do the liner notes? He asked me to do the liner notes. Well, he and Burt Reynolds, whom I'd also bombed, and a number of stars, rushed to put their comments on the album. Well, of course, the album didn't become a hit. 4 months later, Neil calls me. He says, John, you know what? That was the least successful writing I have ever done. So anyway, there you go.
We got to take one more commercial break. We're with John Barbour, John Barbour's World. Incredible story. John, I'm enjoying it so much. I'm telling you, I got to have you back. You got to promise me you're going to come. Okay. The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find the link to Subash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also AwakeRadio.us.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99.
Hi, folks. Ronnie here from Life Change Tea. There's a lot of hubbub about the ramifications of GMOs. First of all, what are GMOs? Genetically modified organisms. Yee! Man-made organisms entering our body, changing and damaging us from the inside out. What's our defense? First of all, not eating them. Second, cleansing from them when we do eat them. Thank God for Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea cleanses from toxins, heavy metals, and helps flush GMOs out of your body. Our unique blend of herbs help cleanse you from the inside out, helping you feel refreshed and clean of yee. We also carry unique one-of-a-kind supplements. So order online at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Rid yourself of the yee that contaminates your food and water. Go to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Get the tea, your best defense.
You can have your ad played here at OppermanReport.com every Friday night, 5 p.m., and Saturday night, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on Friday nights, too, we do a live portion for 1 hour that I just do a live monologue. The ads are very, very inexpensive, and they're also played in the Opperman Report member section. In the member section, you can find all kinds of exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. It's as cheap as $6 a month, $20 a quarter, or $75 for a year. If you contact me directly at oppermanreport@gmail.com, I'll set you up with a little special deal there where you get a discount if you PayPal me directly, and you even get a copy of my book. I want to thank William Ramsey, who helps us produce the show and book guests. You can find William Ramsey, who's an excellent author, at William Ramsey Investigates on YouTube.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. We're here with John Barbour from John Barbour's World. Fascinating stuff. What a life in show business. He's known everybody. And then, John, you mentioned Richard Pryor. Now let's get into Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory has always been a hero of mine since a child. Probably done some of the greatest JFK work, investigations and stuff out of anybody. What do you make toward the end of his life when he started getting into all this stuff about false flags and crisis actors and that some of these events, these police shootings are being staged?
Well, that all happened. That all started when he became a vegetarian. And, Dick could have been the Black Bob Hope. He was absolutely wonderful. He was a handsome young guy, and he dressed beautifully. And even though he'd smoke a cigarette, he'd sit on a stool. And he had some of the greatest topical one-liners. It was just wonderful. Had it not been for Dick Gregory, there would have been no Bill Cosby, because Cosby started out imitating him, and his manager said, "You can't do that. You got to talk about something other than politics." So he started talking about family. And again, in Dick's case, it only started accidentally. There was some function at the Playboy Club in Chicago. It was a one-night function, and it was a group had rented the place, and the comic that they had hired to appear couldn't make it, and Dick got a call at the last moment for $50 to show up and do it. And it so happened that there was a fellow from Time magazine sitting in the audience. And he wrote a 1-paragraph comment about how wonderful Dick was. And it exploded after that. So talking about that and exploding. Did you happen to see Michelle Wolf on the Correspondents' Dinner?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, what did you think?
Well, first of all, she had some very funny lines.
Yeah.
No question about that. Even though she herself commented on the horrible voice that she had. It was a very high-pitched, kind of irritating voice.
Yeah.
And maybe her best comment was the very last line where she said they still don't have any clean water in Flint. And it became a massive overnight viral hit. Now, some of the jokes were fine, and it was kind of okay, but I wonder about the fury of it. And the reason I say that is because funny is funny. You know, I did, 3 weeks ago, I did a song parody called Donald and Stormy, a song parody by John Barbour to the tune of Stormy Weather. And I must tell you, it's hilarious. But if you Google it, it doesn't come up. There are a lot of parodies about Donald and Stormy that come up, but not mine. And a couple of them are to the tune of Stormy Weather. I must tell you, Ed, they're dreadful. They're not funny. I know funny. And mine comes up. And you know what? Cynthia McKinney, and I have a genius who helps me put up the pictures. The pictures that go with the lyrics in this are hilarious and naughty. But they're not vulgar, and they're not X-rated. They're PG-rated at worst, but they're funny pictures. It has only had 418 hits.
Oh, really?
Which is surprising because all of my stuff gets thousands of hits. So I'm wondering now, because this morning Facebook put something up that they are testing. And I don't know if you saw it.
I did, yeah.
It's on everybody's site. It says, is this
hate
speech or not? Vote yes or no. Did you see it?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Okay. They must be testing censoring the internet.
Mm.
The only reason that would be up. And my friend in Thailand is a computer genius who helps me with the pictures. He's a strong supporter of Trump. He said, John, if you want it to go viral, put it on all the I Hate Trump sites. And I said, listen, I don't hate Trump. I have no respect for him as a person. I mean, his book was The Art of the Deal. John Kennedy's book was Profiles in Courage. And, you know, Kennedy's interested in people with character, and Trump's only interested in people with cash. He is proud of the fact that he doesn't read, but now that he's president, he's probably hating the fact he even got the job because he realizes he doesn't run the country. Jim Garrison says in the film from 1980s, I asked him on camera, do you think the president runs the country? And he said, I did until they murdered John Kennedy. Until the people do something about that, the president will never run the country. It'll be run by the military intelligence apparatus that Eisenhower warned us about. Now, you recall, the Cold War was the first fake war, as Garrison said, because they lost 25 million people. They're no threat. So we spent billions and trillions of dollars fighting commies that were really no threat. Now the wall collapses and Russia collapses. We have no threat. So what do? They invent fake terrorists. It's all fake. And Gore Vidal said it just before he died. He said it's like fighting a war against dandruff. It'll never go away.
Right.
So in any event, I forget what your question was. Oh, yeah, it was about this girl. She has a new show coming on Netflix. And I wonder how and why, if she's unknown, does she end up getting a platform at the Correspondents' Dinner when nobody knows her? I mean, does Netflix pay for that? And last night, I guess she was on Colbert's show or one of these late night shows plugging her Netflix show. So, but in any event, a lot of this is a mystery to me. to me, the two really, really funny geniuses, I mean, of course, Robin Williams, Jonathan Winters, both of whom I know really well, but they were Lenny Bruce and Bill Hicks. And Bill Hicks could have been the greatest humorist in the history of the United States had he not died at 32. And when he pops up in my movie, because the only one with the talent or the courage to do jokes about the assassination. When his face popped up on the screen at the theater in Texas when we first screened this movie, there was an eruption of applause. I did not know that people knew who Bill Hicks was. But if you Google him, my God, is that man brilliant? Is that man funny? But he's also filthy, but it's funny. And it's like Red Fox was my mentor. I was the first one to put Red Fox on television. And this led to his ending up getting Sanford and Son. And Sanford's real name is John Sanford.
Oh, really?
Yes, and after Sanford and Son, because he loved his brother, but his brother died, and his brother's name was Fred. And you may recall at one time when he left NBC, he said because he wouldn't build a window in his dressing room.
Right, I do remember that.
Why he'd want a window in a dressing room that's in the basement that's beyond. But he ended up at our house. That's where he came when they couldn't find him. All these stories are in the book. And when he signed his contract with ABC, he spent 2 hours with me. We were brainstorming on how he could present his deal to ABC. And I tried to talk him out of going because he wanted more from Norman Lear and Bud Yorkin, who had created Sanford and Son, which, by the way, was based on an English comedy called Steptoe and Son. So it wasn't actually a creation, but an adaptation, but a brilliant one at that. And I told Red, he was making $25,000 a week. I said, listen, they'll give you a part of it. This is going to run forever. Just go back and continue to do the show because you're wonderful in it. But, success went to his nose. Like a lot of these, he ended up going to the hospital to have a deviated septum fixed because of all the cocaine he snorted, which really broke my heart because it was absolutely and totally unnecessary. But I love the man. I only met 3 geniuses in my life: Jim Garrison, Buckminster Fuller, and my son. And, I'm so proud of the fact that you have sponsors. My only sponsor is my son. And 10 years ago, he was the Caucasian Tiger Woods when he was 5 and 6. He shot his first competitive 69 when he was 13, beat Phil Mickelson and Bobby May, won the Canadian National when he was 15, tried to get on the tour, but couldn't putt. But the greatest ball strike I ever saw, and still is, he kept a journal of his travels. And 10 years ago, he went to Hollywood, and his journal became his profession, and his golf is now his hobby. He started as a runner at CSI, and 4 years later was one of their writers, and 2 years after that, co-executive producer. And now he's one of the head writers and co-executive producers of Criminal Minds. And he loves his renegade father's work. So he is my only sponsor.
I'm glad we left off on that because I know how much you love your son. Because every now and then, a couple of times you've sent me messages you meant to send to your son. You sent to me by mistake on Facebook. So I know how much you love your son, John. And I really do appreciate you coming on the show, man. And you got to come back and give me 2 hours sometime. Can you do that for me?
Oh, yes, I'd be happy to. And I'd like you to do for me, because I'd like to meet you, and I'd like to see this lady that you're supporting here in Las Vegas. I don't know that I want to necessarily say anything on her behalf because I don't know her, but send me the address and the time at which you guys are going to have this telethon, because I would like to come down just as an observer and, of course, to meet you.
John, I would love that. That would be an honor. Thank you so much. And I think you will like Amy, too. Amy Villela, she's running for CD4 for House of Representatives here in the state of Nevada. Her daughter died because she didn't have a proper lapse in health insurance. And Amy's been an activist ever since, and she has the support, like I said, of all these people, Bernie, and Nina Turner and stuff. And she is, for the people.
I'll tell you what I can do,
Yeah.
and I'd be happy to do it. I did it for Jane Fonda, and I did it for Tom Bradley. You know who Tom Bradley was?
Sure.
Okay, Tom Bradley was the black chief of police in Los Angeles. At the time, I was hosting, I was the original host of AM Los Angeles. We were the highest rated morning show. We were bumping heads with the Today Show. Only had a staff of 4 people. We had Muhammad Ali on when nobody would put him on the air, Cesar Chavez. We had all of these people on. Jane Fonda came on to rail against the war in Vietnam, and I ended up writing material for Tom Hayden, her husband, who was running. Anyway, Tom Bradley called me one day and asked if he would come by. He was chief of police, so he came by the office. And he said he used to love watching me do stand-up and wanted to know if I still wrote jokes. And I said, well, just for myself, for my own amusement. He said, I'm thinking of running against Tom Yorty for mayor. Would you write for me? And I said, I'd be thrilled to. So I wrote him a bunch of stuff. Now, he was not glib and he was not personable or articulate. So I told him, I said, what you have to do is, because Tom Yorty attacks you all the time, you just have to have short responses to his attacks. That would be funny. And he said, okay. So anyway, I gave them to him, and I said, use them at your press conferences. He never did, and he lost. And he called me up, and he said, John, I'm so sorry. I just didn't have the courage to do it because that's not me. Well, by that time, I had gotten fired from my show because I tried to book Jim Garrison on after he published his book. But I told Tom I would continue to write for him. The one joke I wrote for him, he said got him elected. Tom Yorty was going around saying, if Bradley becomes mayor of the city of Los Angeles, there'll be crime in the streets. What Yorty was implying was that if a black man got into the office, there'd be blacks rampaging all around the city. So I said to Tom, Tom, this is what you have to say. You have no choice. And the response was, yes, indeed, folks, there will be. If I become elected mayor, there will be crime in the street. Because Yorty has to have some place to conduct his business. He got applause from the press, and he was elected mayor of Los Angeles. And then he came to my aid a couple of times after that when I got into trouble. Anyway, I would be more than delighted to come on your show again. I would tell folks, go to Amazon or Vimeo and just Google the American media and the second assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Some of you should not go because, as Jack Nicholson said in A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth. It is terrible to know the truth of what your country is when you know you cannot do anything about it. You cannot do anything about it. The bad guys have won, but at least you will know how and why it got into the dreadful state it is in. And you can go to YouTube.com/JohnBarbersWorld.com and watch a lot of the stuff free. And there's funny stuff there also. My appearance on The Tonight Show when I roasted Red Fox on Dean Martin, and excerpts from the album. So there's a lot of stuff there. Ed, thank you so much. I never realized that I'd have so much fun talking to you.
John, same here. I did not imagine this would be as good as it was. Thank you so much, John Barbour. John Barbour's World. Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You also do all those kind of different services for you. Online dating service investigations called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites, and we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman, and this is a live show, a rare Saturday night live show. It's a 6 p.m. Cinco de Mayo, 5/5/18. May 5th, 18th, 2018. My God, jeepers creepers. Okay, time is just passing by. Still writing 2016 on my checks. Still writing checks. Okay. I'm the president of Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting, which means I'm a private investigator, but I'm also a digital forensic investigator, which what you do is you send me a cell phone or an iPhone or hard drive, laptop, and we can recover all the data off that phone or that deleted data, and we reduce that to a report that you can use in court. If you don't need to go to court, we can recover deleted data that you can use in an infidelity investigation. You can find a link to my work at emailrevealer.com. You can get a copy of my autographed copy of my book there at emailrevealer.com. How to become a successful private investigator. I'll autograph it for you with the name Ed Opperman right on there on the book, so you know it's legit. The signature on the autograph will match the name of the author of the book. If you're not interested in becoming a private investigator, you can also check out the book because the first chapter is a little autobiography of my life. A little autobiography there. Boy, I'd love a drink right now. I'd love a little Cinco de Drinko right now, but it's been like 40 days. Well, how many days? It's been about 10 weeks without a drink. My goodness. That's not even American or Mexican for Cinco de Mayo Day. Show's brought to you by GetTheTea.com. GetTheTea.com. And this is what you got to do. When you hear me say GetTheTea.com, you go to the website, GetTheTea.com, and you get the tea. That's how that works. It's Life Change Tea. Been drinking this tea now for 10 weeks. Same amount of time I quit drinking. And I've been doing the Daniel fast. I've been vegan for about a year now. But the Daniel fast is no bread, no rice, no coffee, no alcohol, no fun. But I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling better than I have in years. Got up this morning really early. I went on a bike ride. It's about 9 miles in one direction on the Pittman Wash Trail, which is right outside my door here. And then you turn around. I go through a little at the end of the trail. There's a park over there, and sometimes I go through the park too. And then I turn around, and I go back, and coming back, it's like it's all downhill. And then there's another little section I could take too that would take me over to Arroyo Grande Park, which is a beautiful, great parks here in Henderson, Nevada. But when you're coming back from that park, though, man, it's a brutal uphill, and usually by then I'm really tired. But I'm going to one day park my car all the way down. There's this Cornerstone Park all the way down on Stephanie, and I guess Stephanie and Wigwam. Cornerstone Park. And it's this really big field, and there's I guess it was a quarry there at one time, and there's natural spring of water there. There's a pool of water. And when it was just an empty field next to Walmart, me and Vic used to go there. We'd go exploring when she was really little, because we'd go hiking and all the time and stuff like that. So we'd go exploring through this area where there was water, and she would tell me, "Well, Dad, let's go fishing here in this water." And I tell her, "There's no fish in that water," and it was all junk and debris and stuff. There would be like shopping carts in the water. And so I tell, well, let's try and get one of those shopping carts, and we'll pull it out of the water, and we'll take it home and make a go-kart out of it. And so then we'd say, okay, well, we'll come back tomorrow and we'll do that, right? And what I would do is I'd go back, but while she was in school, and I'd like hide a rope and a hook, you know. And then we'd go back and look for the shopping cart. And I'd say, oh, look, here's a rope, you know. Oh, look, here's this thing. We can make a hook out of this. And we'd throw it in there and pull the shopping cart out. And then we'd say, okay, let's come back tomorrow with some tools and start taking this shopping cart apart. So anyway, so we had a little project to do every day, you know, keep the kid entertained. What a great childhood she had. So anyway, that's my bike riding activities. So now they have built a beautiful park down at Cornerstone Park with the paths and stuff like that and basketball courts and all kinds of stuff. So it's the place where we used to go when we were little. It was a really funny story, too, because one day she found this piece of rope, and she took a stick, she tied the rope to it, and then she found this sprocket from the back of a bicycle, and she said that was a fish hook, so she tied that to the rope and the stick. And she was saying, Dad, we can go fishing here. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. Isn't that wonderful? We're not taking calls yet, guys. Relax. Jesus Christ. I tell you. God, Zooks. Anyway, the sponsor of the show is GetTheTea.com. And Life Change Tea, and I'm doing great and working out with this. And I had a great story for you that I was interrupted. But anyway, I'm not going to let it upset me. Let me get some announcements coming up here. I'm working on a big story. We're going to be interviewing a bunch of people. It's one of those Me Too cases where, you know how Bill Cosby was brought down by all these people coming out of the woodwork talking about how they were molested by Bill. Okay, let's take the call. Welcome. You're live on the air. Welcome to the Opera Report.
Hi there. How are you, Ed?
I'm good. Who's calling?
This is Anna.
Anna, how are you?
I'm good. I have a question. I was watching MSNBC about 3 days ago, and Alan Dershowitz was on.
Yeah.
And he was really losing his mind over the Cohen raid and screaming about how civil libertarians should be upset about this. Where is the ACLU? And nobody could really calm him down. And it seemed really, really alarmist. And I know that you've spoken about him in relation to Jeffrey Epstein.
Sure.
But my question to you is this. How long do you know that he and Trump have had any sort of an association? Outside of the Epstein issue, do you suspect there is any, alliance there? And what exactly was his role in the Epstein situation?
Okay, as far as I know, it's an excellent question, by the way. This is the kind of question I hoped for when I was playing this. Okay, this is a great question. I also am fascinated to see Dershowitz having a heart attack there on live TV. He was called out by the girl Virginia Roberts, okay, who now goes by the name Virginia Giuffre, and she described about how he was there while she was giving oral sex to Epstein. He stood there and she was forced to have sex with him as well. So he's named in all these lawsuits, okay? And these lawsuits are not, and he sued the lawyers that were representing Virginia Roberts. And the lawyers representing Virginia Roberts are former federal judges. These people are no jokes. This is a very serious law firm. So they're not going to put something like that in there without something to back it up, okay? So now, he's named in the Jeffrey Epstein lawsuit. Now, why is he freaking out? What's his connection to Trump? He has no connection to Trump other than the Jeffrey Epstein connection. Okay? That's it. Mm-hmm. And even he goes on TV saying there's no other connection. Now, why is he freaking out when Michael Cohen's house gets raided? Because like I'm trying to tell everybody here, I'm screaming it from the rooftops, there's a connection, guys, between the Epstein lawsuit, the Epstein-Trump lawsuit, and the Stormy Daniels case, okay? And that's why he's freaking out, because all this stuff is going to be in the fixer, Michael Cohen's phone records and his texts and his emails. My name is going to be in there, okay? So this is what's going on here, and that's why he's having a heart attack. Now, let's just hope Mueller, because I'm a little concerned Mueller's not taking a little bit more proactive role here. But let's, he's got all this information now. Let's just hope he really does something with it, and then we got him.
Okay. And you had mentioned the other day that, it came out in the news that there was $750,000 known
Yeah.
that they've released to the public right now. And you said, these cases are generally worth a lot more money than being spoken about at the moment. So, this is kind of a yes or no question because of the nature of your work, and you know a lot more things than you can tell us about. But do you suspect that there will be a lot more women who are the equivalent of Stormy Daniels?
Yeah, there's definitely more women. There's no doubt about that. Okay, there's more women because when I started hearing about this back in June of 2016, we knew that there were more women shopping around their stories and their pictures and their more porn stars and stuff like that. And a lot of them have been with those kill deals, where they sell their story to the National Enquirer or the Radar Online and In Touch and all these people, and then they kill the story. So they're out there. They're out there for sure. But I think what's going to happen with that $250,000, I don't think they're going to find any trace of that. I think it's always converted to cash, and I think this confirms the Christopher Steele dossier when he says that Michael Cohen showed up in Prague with a bag full of cash and paid off all the hackers and paid off everybody to keep him quiet. And I think that's what happened.
And just so that we're clear about the Steele dossier, the claim is not that the prostitutes were paid to urinate on Donald Trump. The claim is that they were paid to urinate on a bed where the Obamas slept. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. And there's witnesses. The housekeeping, there's witnesses, and there's independent witnesses, 4 of them, who talk about this.
Which, in many ways, people are so profoundly disturbed by the different paraphilias that people have. But that's not even what's being suggested, which I think is part of the reason why people can say, well, that's just disgusting. That's not the case. But in fact, the act itself is really just some kind of retribution type mentality towards the success that the Obamas had in his mind, which is completely consistent with Donald Trump's character.
Yeah, he's definitely an odd guy. There's no doubt about that. But even Trump talks about being down in the basements of Studio 54 and sitting around and watching a famous model that everybody would know her name, getting gangbanged by 7 guys. Now, he's talked about that. So this is his lifestyle. And there was another article that came out a while back that talked about when he owned the Plaza Hotel, that there was rooms up there with prostitutes and coke and all kinds of stuff, like the wild parties going on. So this is his reputation. And Roy Cohen had the reputation of having little boys buried on his estate in Connecticut. So these are the characters he's hung out with his whole life. John Casablancas, the head of Elite Modeling Agency, who was a notorious pedophile, took these little girls, these little 12, 13-year-old models to Studio 54 and did a whole a press release thing about it where he's serving them cookies and milk on a silver tray, and even Trump with his own daughter. And Trump turned his own daughter over to that guy, Casablancas. So as far as, no one can, what is the extent of his perversion? Who knows? But if half of this is true.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to take up any more time because people may have some interesting questions, but you really do amazing work, and we learn a lot from listening to you. And we all hope that you and Victoria are just continue to be safe and happy.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that because I really do. I'm trying my best there. I really am. And I do love the audience, and I work a tightrope sometimes. But I'm really trying to get out there what I can. So your name is Anna?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Anna. Good night.
Bye.
Okay, so there we had Anna. That was a good question. Okay, so try and keep along that theme, guys. That would be great. If all the callers were like that tonight, I'd be a very happy guy. Okay, so where are we? My notes here. I got a thing coming up on May 11th with Amy Villela. I'm going to be doing a telethon. By the way, we are taking calls 702-605-4894. Is that okay? 702-605-4894. Is that the number? I hope I'm not giving out my phone. Yeah, 702-605-4894. We're taking calls. Very rare that I take calls anymore. Okay, so let's. You want to talk to me about anything? You want to ask me about? I'll accept any kind of call. You want to tell me why I'm wrong about Trump? You want to tell me why I'm wrong about Christopher Steele, why I'm wrong about the dossier, I'm wrong about QAnon, and all that kind of stuff. Why I'm wrong about socialism. If you think I'm wrong, call me up and tell me. Call me out. All these comments I get all the time on YouTube telling me how stupid I am. So let's get it out in the open. I won't be rude. I won't be mean to you. Amy Willella, May 11th, I'm going to be doing a telethon, so tune in. That's a Friday night, so I'm going to be doing it like during the day in the afternoon. We're going to be simulcasting it on Spreaker on my new laptop, and we're going to have it on Awake Radio too, I hope, if we can get everything installed. Got a Me Too case I'm working on. Okay, and hopefully we may have I got another call coming in. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Opera Report. You're live on the air.
Hi, Ed. How's it going?
Good. How are you? Who's this?
Yeah. So is the hi, my name's Lars. Is the subject of conversation still Q?
Yeah. If you want, whatever you want.
Okay. So I'm not really an expert on the subject, but there is an interesting piece. Obviously, there's an interesting piece that I read or that I watched this the other day by. A guy he goes by the pseudonym of Titus Frost.
Okay.
And yeah, you might have heard of him. He's done like a lot of work with the Pizzagate stuff. Anyway,
yeah.
he was saying that he kind of made a convincing argument that the Q operation was basically something put out by some guys that do this. They've done these cryptography puzzles. The cicada, what's it called? Cicada. 3031 or something like this. Hold on a second, let me find it. It's basically these guys, they're allegedly white, 3301, Cicada 3301. He's trying to say that it was something put out by the Cicada 3301 people because some of the original early posts that were on 4chan from Q were actually, they had like puzzles that were like hidden that you wouldn't be able to notice unless you were kind of adept at the whole cryptography game, right?
Yeah,
claiming that he's claiming that it basically kind of like shifted at one point, and after a while that their platform was basically taken from them, and he's claiming that then later it was taken over by someone else, and when the tone of the messages changed, and it turned into a lot of kind of like just standard issues like Zionism stuff and like propaganda, a little more of the like on the propaganda side. So I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I don't know either.
But,
I unfriended and blocked Titus Frost. I forget what it was exactly, but there was a couple of things I saw him doing that just I didn't have any patience for. I don't remember, and I'm sure he's done some good work, but I just lost patience. Sure. But what is this? What is the 34th and what's this called? What's it called?
The Cicada 3301, and they were basically, I guess it's just like an intelligence operation that was run as if it were kind of one of those competitions that the different tech companies will put out to try to recruit talent. They say, okay, here's a puzzle, anyone that can figure it out gets the prize or something, right? But there really was no prize, I guess. It was more so just like you get bragging rights, and then once you solve the puzzle, you're obviously going to be recruited by somebody, because it shows that you're like one of the upper echelon code breakers or, crypto people probably in the world. So they're like really, I mean, they're way beyond my level. But
well, then wait, are these guys real spies? Then you're trying to say they're real spies?
Oh. Well, I'm not trying to say that Q. Well, like what he was trying to say is that there was a different quality to the posts of the Q while they were coming from the 4chan. Well, they were on 4chan still. So when the posts were coming out from 4chan, he was saying that there were like coded messages inside the way that the posts were laid out. And then it shifted at one point, and then it kind of like took on a different quality. So
I understand that. But the thing is, even in the original 4chan Q post, which you can see, he was talking about imminent. There was a countdown, imminent arrest of Hillary. None of that ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it definitely like.
What are you killing somebody? Are you killing somebody over there?
I haven't wasted a lot of time on it because it looks like it's kind of just like a. hey, get out your super decoder ring, guys.
Right.
And let's, go along and follow POTUS and everybody get on board with this, like spy novel kind of
fortune cookie,
like interactive, getting the whole, truther community involved in something that's kind of a waste of time. Even if it's not, it's like, what's the point anyway? Really, because it's all just kind of like, rallying everybody behind a cause that's kind of it's an illusion in a way. Really, if you think about it, it's like, okay, is there really some kind of freedom fighting group of patriots out there that are all have their decoder rings out and they're like planning to reinstitute the Constitution? Not really, man. It's just everybody's behind their computer screens, kind of wasting their time.
And also, he's sort of calling for a military coup with martial law and firing squads, and
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's gonna help.
Yeah, right.
That's gonna help.
And the thing is,
more of the same, then, right?
Right. And if we want to change, listen, the conditions we live under are intolerable. They're unacceptable. We should have pitchforks and stuff right now on every corner.
Sure.
Yeah, and torches, But the thing is that if your house is on fire, right, you don't want to sit back and pretend that there's firemen coming, and sit on your computer. You want real firemen to come, or you want to put the fire out yourself. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So this whole cute fantasy thing, man, it's out the window.
Yeah, it's pretty wild though. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there and contribute my 2 cents to the conversation there.
Again, a second excellent call. Thank you so much. I might start taking calls again. This is great. Thank you. What's your name again?
All right. Lars Bendixson.
Lars, God bless you, Lars. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you too, man. See ya.
All right. Well, there we go. 2 great calls. Boy, the night is young. Okay. I might start taking calls again. This is easy peasy. Okay, we're going to take a commercial break here, and we'll be right back with more wonderful calls. Now, don't call me during the break, okay? It's going to be too much of a hassle, okay? Don't bust my balls. Call me after the break, 702-605-4894, whatever you want to talk about. You want to talk about Q, Epstein, Trump. Tell me where I'm wrong. Socialism, tell me how I'm wrong.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Hi, folks. Ronnie here from Life Change Tea. There's a lot of hubbub about the ramifications of GMOs. First of all, what are GMOs? Genetically modified organisms. Yee! Man-made organisms entering our body, changing and damaging us from the inside out. What's our defense? First of all, not eating them. Second, cleansing from them when we do eat them. Thank God for Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea cleanses from toxins, heavy metals, and helps flush GMOs out of your body. Our unique blend of herbs help cleanse you from the inside out, helping you feel refreshed and clean of yee. We also carry unique one-of-a-kind supplements. So order online at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Rid yourself of the yee that contaminates your food and water. Go to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Get the tea, your best defense.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company. They're located in India, so you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service. They offer all sorts of business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshoring, research network, customer care, press release, content writing and distribution, and much, much more. Now, you can get a hold of Subash Technosis by email at info@subashtechnosis.com. Their website is www.subashtechnosis.com, and their Skype is ANUSHASUBASH.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow. Shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You also do all the kind of different services for you. Online dating service investigations called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites, and we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You want to call in 702-605-4894, 702-605-4894. I think I remember why. I was following Titus Frost on Twitter, and he did a lot of good work in Pizzagate. I give him credit for that. But I think he was working on something, and he was contacting the police, public information officer, and he was going back and forth in email, and he was posting the emails conversation he was having with these cops, and he was even like quoting other YouTubers and posting links to YouTube in these emails he's sending back and forth to these cops. And I tried to tell him, hey man, just get him on the phone, okay, and create a rapport with these cops, because they'll talk to you, and they're very professional. I have never had a problem with a public information officer, police department anywhere in this country. You call them up, you tell them who you are, what the information you want. They try and get it out to you, and they'll even you create a rapport with these guys. They'll chat with you, they'll gossip with you, and they'll give you even more information than they have to. And that's the way to handle this. And to start sending them links of guys with, crazy names, they're not going to get you anywhere, So, and I tried to. I think that's when I got disillusioned with Titus Frost. But I don't have any kind of beef with me. I think his heart's in the right place, and he's a good guy. 702-605-4894. Like I was saying, and I could do the rest of the show on my head. This is it. The show's almost over. I got this Me Too case I'm working on. Thursday, I'm going to be interviewing Rob Sutter, okay, from Naughty But Nice, the gossip columnist. He's coming on for like 2 hours. He's a magazine editor, talk show host. He's an author. And we're buddies on Facebook. And I made a little joke today, and he replies to me, "Hello, handsome." So I says, hey, come on the show, man. He said, "Agreed to come on the show." Great, we'd have him on. He's a fun guy. I'm doing a show about Poppy. I was supposed to tape it today, but we had so many problems. A good old John Razimus, who's done many, many YouTube videos about Poppy. I don't know if you know who Poppy is. It's this internet sensation. It's like a YouTube creation. It's like almost like an Andy Warhol thing. And a little bit of hypnotism involved and occult symbolism involved. And she's kind of attracting in preteens, too, like for that little Justin Bieber type audience, too. So you want to keep an eye out for that. Anyway, so I tried to tape this with John Rasmus yesterday, and my Spreaker got all screwed up. It wasn't recording. It froze up, and we lost the whole recording. So he was nice enough to agree to come back. Had a little conversation with my daughter last night live on the air, Victoria, about her debate team. And they got a GoFundMe, right? Go get CASLV to nationals, okay? And they're trying to raise funds to get their debate team to national, which is a big deal. And we talk about a whole thing about how this really helps these kids with their college scholarships and really prepares them for life. And it's very rewarding, too, if you're an adult or even a late teen, a college student, and you want to judge these debates, man. It's very rewarding to go down there and judge these debates. I really encourage it for everybody. So that's Get CASLV, Choral Academy of Science Las Vegas to Nationals. And there's a link on my Facebook and on my Twitter. You can find it there easily. Okay, let's see what else going on there. Oh, get this. Hey, Mr. Trump, who's taking on the deep state, you can call in at 702-605-4894, 702-605-4894. Mr. Trump, who's taking down the deep state. He's an outsider, just like you and me. Did you know that the NSA has tripled their surveillance on U.S. citizens under President Mr. Trump? Now, how does that jive? How do you, all you guys out there who send me these nasty YouTube comments telling me what a great guy Trump is and how he's an outsider and he's taking on the deep state. Isn't the NSA the deep state? Okay? Aren't they, you want them spying on us? You want them spying on you? Wouldn't that be something that you think that if President Mr. Trump was really an outsider and an anti-deep stater, that he would kind of, you appoint the guy who's in charge of the NSA, right? Kelly came right out of Homeland Security. Give me a break. If he didn't want these things going on, he could stop it. Okay, and if you think differently, give me a call, 702-605-4894. Now I'm running out of notes. Okay, I'm getting desperate for some of those lousy calls that I was expecting. Story came out this week about grand jury subpoenas issued in the Harvey Weinstein criminal case. Okay, now I can tell you this. I know a little behind the scenes info. This Harvey Weinstein's making settlements. Okay, he's paying out cash settlements, which may bankrupt this company. Man, they kicked him out of there, but he's still paying out settlements quietly. Okay, and now he's gearing up for this big criminal defense too. So that's a whole thing going on there. So keep your eye out for that. 702-605-4894. Hey, too, also, don't forget, we have our members section here at OppermanReport.com. And that's how you support the show. You go to the members section, and you can buy shows. They're in there. And these are, by the way, a lot of people don't understand. I get this comment all the time. That says, well, Ed, why should we become a member when all your shows are up on YouTube? And we can get all your shows on Spreaker. The shows in the members section, you can't get those on YouTube, and you can't get those on Spreaker. These are exclusive shows. There's like another 100 shows. Great stuff. Henry Vincent, Confessions of a D.C. Madam. Everybody talks about the case where, and look at this cover. Oh, what the heck was that? Someone sending me a friend request? I wonder if this is I don't like that noise, though. Someone, Barbour O'Reilly. Okay, let's see who this is. If they're going to make a call. Gadzooks. Anyway, because you got all this spam. Oh, it's Josh Brookshire. Yo, Ed, it's Josh Brookshire. Need callers, buddy? Yeah, call in. Barbour O'Reilly. What a whack job. People always talk about this case where they had the call boys touring the White House. That's Henry Vincent. He's the guy that ran that call escort service operation. So what do you call it? That show, and that's pretty much an exclusive interview. And this guy, they threw him in prison. And this is the whole thing with the Franklin cover-up. He was being blackmailed by Lawrence, what's that guy? Lawrence King. And everybody talks about this case of Franklin cover-up stuff. I got the guy right there. This is, welcome to the Opera Report. You're live on the air.
Hey, Ed. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, boy, your connection is really bad. This is Josh Brookshire?
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let me fix it.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second, buddy.
Oh, that's a lot better.
Hey, can you hear me better now, Ed?
Yeah, maybe your mouth a little bit away from the microphone. How's that?
Oh, okay. I don't want to blow anyone's ears out.
Yeah.
A little bit better now.
Yeah, that's better. So what's on your mind?
Oh, nothing, man. You're right about this QAnon stuff, though, man. All this, it's just like reeks of like schizophrenia, dude. Like, I'm gonna be real. I think a lot of these people, like you're saying, they got caught by the con, you know, and they were expecting it to be like, kind of like how it was with Obama when he got elected, where everybody suddenly respected him and everything, and now you got Trump in there and no one respects him, so their only mechanism is to be like, oh, it must be a conspiracy. It's not that this guy is a con man. You know what I'm saying? You've been right on it all along, man.
Yeah, well, if you're from New York, and people who know Trump for years and years and years, the guy was always a sleazeball and a con man. So it's really no surprise, you know? Yeah, and here we are now. But no, I never in my wildest dreams, I thought they'd be raiding his lawyer's office. Yeah. Like this guy, I knew you saw yourself. I predicted during the primaries that he was going to wind up in jail, right?
Yeah, you did, man. I have the screenshot. You said screenshot it. I still have it.
Yeah, so
somewhere.
Yeah. So you know, like this is no way, man. You know, like you know, they're raiding his lawyer's office now. This guy's going down. It's going to be under the prison. So yeah, there's no hope for Trump, man. Unfortunately. Hey, what do you got this funny name for, Bob O'Reilly, for?
I think it's something. This might be like, because I had to sign in with the Skype with like an old Hotmail account from like 1998 or something like that. Most of the time when I'm 13, like that.
Okay.
Yeah, the story of weird username. You know? But one thing I was wondering that you were talking about Michael Cohen is that he shouldn't have been compelled to release Sean Hannity's name.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I would say, isn't there like something where it has to be like a reasonable expectation to privacy or something like that? Like,
yeah, and I think there is, and there should be. If there isn't, there should be, because, like I said, you know, if I go to visit a criminal attorney or a divorce attorney, do I want my wife to be able to find that out? You know, and so I think the judge made the wrong ruling in that case, and yeah, I think a big mistake.
So all the Sean Hannity stuff is about him like flipping HUD homes, right? Isn't that like that? That's the same scam from season 4 of The Sopranos when Tony goes and whips the dude with a belt. You remember that? That's the same scam that he was doing, right? Flipping HUD houses.
I do remember that, and you know, Trump's father made his living from HUD money, and it's interesting now that he put this character Ben Carson there into HUD. See, Trump is no fool. You know, he's not. He knows where the money. See, the thing with Trump is, see, any criminal, right? They're gonna steal anything that they can get their hands on. You know what I mean? Because they just, you know. And I've dealt with a lot of criminals and burglars, and if they can get through that door, it's theirs. If they can get their hands on it, it's theirs. If they could take it, they're gonna take it. You know. So yes, so Trump is gonna clean out the HUD. I'm sure of that, and I'm sure he got payoffs too when he did those deals with the Saudis. Right, and one of the first things he did start selling arms to the Saudis, because they're notorious for that, for making payoffs. So
yeah, Adnan Khashoggi. Yeah, but here's another thing. You know this guy going back to. You said they saw, what was it, the golf thing, Augusta or something? Open, what was it?
The U.S. Open tennis tournament.
Okay, so was he normal back then, or has he always been like this, like cheese-brained idiot? Like, has he like lost a step or two over age? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I definitely think he's lost a step or two, and Giuliani has absolutely lost many steps. It's really and he's a drinker too, man, Giuliani, and I think he was a little out of it those nights. Yeah, but Trump, Trump was a sharp guy, man. You know, you go back and look in the primaries, the debates in the primaries. He was a sharp guy, and he's lost a ton of that, man. Even just till today. Now he's just repeating the same thing over and over again, and just stumbling around, man. And look at, my God, just think, this is the president of the United States of America. And the White House doesn't know what his defense plan is for this Michael Cohen stuff, and he's cooking it up on the fly with Rudy Giuliani, who's half in the coffin. You know what I mean? Yeah, and then they're just gonna throw this out there and wing it. They have there's no chance for these guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think, does it have something to do with like see, I'm a little bit fuzzy on the impeachment thing versus it being a criminal charge. Doesn't the House and the Senate have to vote to confirm an impeachment, right? Like they did with Bill Clinton. But does that preclude, if he's charged with a crime, does that bypass the impeachment hearings?
Well, they're saying, from my understanding, is he can't be charged with a federal crime while he's in the office of the presidency. Okay, but I think that there's going to be crimes that have no statute of limitations, state crimes that he's going to be facing when he gets out of this. You know, there's a lot of stuff, shady stuff in this guy's past. Look at the stuff with this helicopter pilot, you know, and the drug dealing over there.
Selling coke,
right. And look at the stuff too. You know, there was that really odd plane crash, you know, that no one ever talks about, where you know his top executives in the casino were all in this plane at the same time. He was supposed to get on the plane, he never did, and the plane crashes. And then he starts trashing them like a month later, saying, "Well, they're the cause of all of our problems."
When was this?
Oh
when
man,
was this?
It's in that Libby, that documentary that I have in the members section. And it's in there. But I remember this when it happened all live. There's a lot of stuff that happened live with Trump in New York that's never talked about. Like when he was evicting people from these, when they would convert these apartments into co-ops, and then they would try to get all the tenants out, right? And he was saying, "Oh, I'm going to make it a homeless shelter. We're going to bring in homeless people and let in the homeless to live here to kick the tenants out, that they would leave." And this was all on the news, openly in New York in the 80s. So, yeah. And you know, a lot of those Trump buildings, Tyson's houses on Staten Island, this is where you go to get the crack. This is where you go to get the prostitutes on Staten Island, Tyson houses. This is Trump properties, man. It's not all, you know, it's some really dirtbag properties this guy was running. So,
I just think it's weird that, like, I just think it's weird that he's like the sitting president and he has all of these goons and idiots like Jared Kushner.
Yeah.
Why that guy? His dad had to pay like what $5 million to get him into Harvard. He had to pay that. That's crazy. You know? And then Chris Christie out from the transition committee because Christie put Kushner's dad in jail for like some weird selling organs or selling body parts or something.
No. Kushner's dad got convicted for making illegal campaign contributions to Democrats. He was so obsessed with donating money to Democrats that he set up all these partnerships and all this stuff, and he illegally donated money. When he started getting investigated for that, he hired a prostitute to go sleep with his brother-in-law and record it, and then because his brother-in-law was testifying, cooperating against him, and tried to blackmail his brother-in-law. Okay? That's the family that Trump allowed his daughter to marry into. Now, just imagine, Josh, you got a daughter, and my boyfriend, his father hired a prostitute to blackmail his brother-in-law. Dad, you think I should marry into this family? What would you say? Yeah.
Wild. And the other thing that's wild about Kushner is all these conspiracy people. Remember during Obama where every little subtle thing was a sign of Satanism and a sign of Illuminati?
Yeah.
And Jared Kushner's trying to offload 666, was it Park Avenue or whatever it is? And people are like, "Oh, no, he's a godly man." You know, it's so wild, dog.
Okay, so now you're into this stuff. Now let me ask you this, because inside that building, there's this thing where they have a miniature. There's a miniature city of New York, like an attraction where everything's miniaturized. There's police stations miniaturized and fire departments miniaturized and the mayor's office. Now, isn't there some kind of a cult, like voodoo doll kind of thing where you could miniaturize something and cast spells over it?
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think any of these people, I don't think they're smart enough to be like, at least Kushner and Trump. You know, I think it's a pathological obsession with real estate, and actually like that old saying that God doesn't make any more land, so you better grab it while you can type thing. I think that's what it is. And it's like, it's a weird venal money situation where they're just obsessed with money. And Trump is he has a mind like a 2-year-old, or not a 2-year-old, a second grader, where he likes everyone who's nice to him and like imitates them. The Macron thing. And he meets Obama, and he's like, "Oh no, he's actually a really good guy." You know, when he first sat down and they shook hands, sitting far apart, weird looking and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't give him that much credit. I'm going to be real.
It really is pathetic. But listen, man, I got to take a commercial break. Thank you so much for calling in. And keep in touch, all right, bro?
Oh, absolutely, Ed. You have a good one, buddy.
Good night. Okay, yeah, Josh Brookshire. Josh Brookshire. He's always a cool guy. I've known him for years and years and years. Always been calling in. Okay, we've got a little commercial break here. And now a word from our sponsors.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you know you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find a link to Subash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also awakeradio.us.
People are waking up. They're standing up to those pushing pesticides and GMOs as safe alternatives for a starving world. What a bunch of crap! I tell you, I'd rather eat dirt. So I drink Life Change Tea. It's an herbal drink, cleansing my body of toxic sludge and nasty chemicals, and of course, ridding the intruders that are hidden in my so-called food. And by the way, Life Change Tea is non-GMO and organic. No fillers, no yuck. Just a great defense against you-know-what. May the supplement force awaken you. Don't fall to the dark side. Sorry. I went to the movies last night. Anyway, enough said. How do you get that herbal drink and change your life? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. You will awaken. You will get stronger, and you might even lose a bit of weight. So awaken to Life Change Tea and the many one-of-a-kind supplements at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. May the supplement force be with you.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. You can have your ad played here at OppermanReport.com every Friday night, 5 p.m., and Saturday night, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on Friday nights, too, we do a live portion for 1 hour that I just do a live monologue. The ads are very, very inexpensive, and they're also played in the Opperman Report member section. In the member section, you can find all kinds of exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. It's as cheap as $6 a month, $20 a quarter, or $75 for a year. If you contact me directly at oppermanreport@gmail.com, I'll set you up with a little special deal there where you get a discount if you PayPal me directly, and you can get a copy of my book. I want to thank William Ramsey, who helps us produce the show and book guests. You can find William Ramsey, who's an excellent author, at William Ramsey Investigates on YouTube. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. I think what Josh was talking about there was the story about when I ran into Trump at the U.S. Open tennis match. And I ran into Trump a couple of times in my life. That was one occasion, which didn't go so well. And previously, I used to go to all the fights in Atlantic City, and I'd go to Trump Hotel, the Trump, what was it called, Trump Tower, Trump Plaza, down in Atlantic City Casino. All the time, they had this great restaurant there called Ivana's restaurant. It was a wonderful restaurant. I used to love that place. So, but what happened was, years earlier, I used to go to Manhattan a lot. And I used to date flight attendants a lot because I used to travel back and forth across the country quite a bit. So I used to date flight attendants. So I knew all these flight attendants who kept these apartments in New York. And how they do this is like 10 girls will keep an apartment in New York. And there's only 2 or 3 staying there at any one time. But they're all shifting in and out. Kind of like crash pads, flop houses, right? And so one night I was out with these flight attendants hanging out. And they says, well, you never guess who's staying at our place. And I says, who? And he says, Marla Maples. And this is when everything had hit the news about Marla Maples was cheating with Trump and stuff like that. And the paparazzi was hunting her down. And she was hiding out in this apartment with these flight attendants. And she came in with garbage bags of her clothes. You know, her clothes were in garbage bags. She didn't even have like suitcase. That's how much on the run she was. So I made a joke. And I said, well, let's tap the phones. I said, I'll go up there and I'll tap the phones. And we can tape her talking to Trump. Because there were no cell phones back in those days. And I could sell it to the paparazzi. I'll sell it to the National Enquirer. So they all got mad at me. And I said, no, come on, I'm just kidding. So I made that joke again in front of Bo Dietl and in front of some people who were friends with Trump and stuff like that. And then shortly after that, I ran into him there at the U.S. Open. He was giving me daggers. He was shooting daggers at me the whole night, giving me these dirty looks. He was flirting with some models in there, too, that day as well. But anyway, so that's my little interactions with Trump that Joshua Brookshire that was talking about. 702-605-4894. If we got time for just a couple more little callers to sneak back in here and give us a call. 702-605-4894. John Barbour was on the first hour, and he's going to be on later on tonight. We have William Ramsey next. And then after that, John Barbour, you can catch him every Saturday night. At what time would that be? 8 o'clock he comes on. No, 7:30 he comes on for a nice... No. 8 o'clock. Ramsey's on for an hour, 7 to 8. Then Barber's on from 8 to 9. So if you like John Barbour earlier tonight, and tonight he's interviewing Susan Lindenauer. So more people should check that out. Another thing, too, I knew Rudy Giuliani well enough to hang out with him in the bars and stuff like that, and we hung out many times. And before he was running for mayor, after he became mayor, I don't think I saw him once. After he became mayor, I maybe saw him like once or twice my whole life after that. Actually, now that I think about it, because I did kind of help this guy become mayor. But anyway, even I was a Dinkins fan. But people who say this stuff about, all these guys got to be in the Illuminati and they got to be Satanists and worshipers and stuff like that and into the occult, Giuliani would have no clue about any of that kind of stuff. That would be the most foreign thing to him in the whole world. And if you tried to say something like that to him, like, hey man, he would say, what are you talking about? I pray to St. Christopher. I pray to, I went to St. Mary's church. Like, he's that kind of guy. He's raised Catholic. He has no kind of real faith or anything. He has no clue what's going on. But there's no way he's dabbling in witchcraft and the occult like that. He would have no clue about anything like that. That's just not the type of guy he is. So 702-605-4894 if you want to get in one quick call before the show is over and we get this over with and I could relax. Coming up next, William Ramsey, then John Barbour after that. Let's see. What else was I going to say? I can't think of anything right now. So 702-605-4894. That's the phone number. Even if you want to make a prank phone call, or if you just want, why don't somebody call up and scream commie nudie into the phone? Santa, you won't do that because I'll recognize the number. But that's a kind of an inside joke. Back when I lived in New York City, and I used to sit and listen to WBAI all day long, 99.5 on the FM dial, right in the center of the FM dial back in New York City. It was this socialist leftist station back in the 70s and the 80s, and it still is today. It's still there, but not like it was back in the heyday. And there was this guy who would call into all the shows, and he would scream into the phone, "Commie nudie, commie nudie," and he was fascinated with Bob Fass. He would mostly call in to yell "commie nudie" to the Bob Fass show, because Bob Fass one day was telling a story about how he went and visited a nudist colony. And this guy got into his head that he was a nudie and that everyone at the station was commies. So he would just yell into the phone, commie nudie. So when I was going down there and I would answer the phones and I would do some producing in the background and stuff like that and do my little comedy bits, I found out, and it looks like I still had my PI connections. I had connections with the phone company. So I was able to find out this guy and trace his phone call back to the fire station where he worked. The guy was a fireman. So we called over there and we found out, hey, who's calling the station all the time? And the guy goes, oh, yeah, we know who that is. Okay. And it turns out that the guy who was calling in all the time screaming commie nudie into the phone also was a real character. That wasn't the only crazy thing he was doing. And what he would do, too, is there was a bank of payphones out in front of the fire station. So he would put a quarter in each one and have them all ringing so he could get the call, the overflow calls, like I forget what that's called. But, so he would be the next call in line. Every time you picked up, he would be the rollover. He would be the next rollover call for every call. And he'd be screaming, cover duty, cover duty, cover duty. But that guy was so crazy that what he did was he tracked down that guy, Rockin' Rollin' Edwards, who was the guy with the rainbow wig who would go to the baseball games and the football games and stuff like that and hold up the John 3:16 sign. This you got to be in your 50s or 60s to remember this kind of stuff. But Rockin' Rollin' Edwards, you can look him up, was a notorious guy at all the sporting events, and he kind of went crazy. And like as if he wasn't crazy to begin with, but he went crazy, and he actually took a hostage at a hotel room that was across the street from a sporting event. So that's Rockin' Rollin' Edwards, and this guy and the commie nudie guy actually tracked him down so they could hang out together and swap stories. Okay, I'd love to get a hold of that commie nudie guy now and get him on the air. I can get Frank from Queens, who was a notorious caller back in the New York days. And I can get him. I'm going to try and get him too. But I got Uri Geller too. I can get Uri Geller on the show. And if there's anybody you want to get on the show, you want to hear me interview, I love it when I get emails like that. But when you do, try and put a little effort and get the contact information, the email for the guy you want me to interview, or their book, or what city they live in, or something about them that I could locate them and track them down. You can email me at oppermanreport@gmail.com. Still time for one last call, 702-605-4894. You can squeeze it in. We only got 4 minutes left. If you want to advertise here at the Opperman Report, we got great rates for you, man. It's so cheap you would not believe. We could really use a new advertiser right now because the Get the Tea guy, we're kind of running out. And I need that tea. Okay. By the way, too, you're going to have a little bit of time here to buy that tea, before he's going to stop advertising. Then we're not going to be selling the tea anymore. So getthetea.com. Check that out. And I tell you, it's really changed my life. I'm going to have some before and after pictures for you. I was hiking with Victoria about 2 weeks ago, and she took some pictures of me with my shirt off and my shorts hiking. And I was still a little chubby there, man. I tell you, I've lost a lot of weight since then because those same shorts I was wearing that day, they're falling off me today. So we're gonna have some before and after pictures, and this is after like 2 months of being on the diet and on the tea. I've lost over 20 pounds. I'm like 189 today. GetTheTea.com. Life Change Tea really will change your life, man. I promise you. So if you want to advertise, contact me at oppermanreport@gmail.com. Still time for one last call, 702-605-4894. You can catch me at the Amy Villela telethon, May 11th in the afternoon. My time is not quite set. And we're going to have John Barbour get down there too. I'm going to send him some information. I'm sure he'll like Amy. Frank from Queens was an FBI agent, provocateur, informant like Hal Turney. You think so, huh? I don't know, man. I never heard that one. If you got some information on that, email it to me, oppermanreport@gmail.com. He was probably he was a troublemaker for sure. I was the first Frank from Queens impersonator. And the first guy that started calling in and doing an impersonation of Frank from Queens, holding my nose. And then when everybody started doing it, I know poor Frank, it made him go crazy. He hated that more than anything. All the imitators, and you couldn't tell who was who anymore. I don't know. I've done some evil things in my life. I got to tell you a story. I've tortured people on the internet and trolled them and stuff, and just until they're pulling their hair out. I've done some stuff to some people that I'm not proud of. I'm not ashamed of either, but I'm not proud of, that's for sure. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in tonight and for the calls. We had great callers. Every caller was a great caller. I'd really like to hear from some of those people, though, one week who love to complain on the YouTube channel and tell me how stupid I am. and how I don't know what I'm talking about and stick to what you know and all that kind of rude comments, I guess people aren't that rude over the phone when they want to talk to people, and maybe they're not as articulate as they are when they're right. So, and we'll do this again another time where we'll take some calls. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun tonight. So thank you so much. And I don't have my sad music queued up, but I really do like the new sad music at the end. Let's see if I can pull it up real fast. My sad. You know what it's called? What we have it labeled as is sad music. Do I have it? No, I'm not going to have time to find it either. Well, guys, thank you so much. If you're listening on KYAH, coming up next is Alex Jones. And if you're listening on any of the stations I run, Awake or People's Internet Radio or